Good morning and welcome to everyone, whether you're here in our building, on Zoom, hi Zoomers, or watching online later. You are all welcome, whether a regular attender or especially if you're a newcomer or newcomer online, welcome. Whatever you bring in your heart, whether you come in sadness or joy or out of curiosity, whatever your faith or none, you are all welcome. This morning's service is offered by our poetry group, church members and friends who have been meeting for over 20 years to read and share our love of poetry. Our theme today is water, particularly of the oceans, from source to sea, in recognition of World Oceans Day, which was last Thursday, the 8th of June. Our poems, readings, prayers and hymns all celebrate this most important substance, for all life on our home planet Earth depends on water. Nearly 3/4 of the surface of our planet is covered by water, rivers, lakes, seas and oceans. From space, our world can be seen as the blue of the oceans, marbled with the white clouds, also water-bearing. Too little water is disastrous. Field, farmland and forest suffer when it is in short supply, as we've seen recently with the Canadian forest wildfires. Too much water is also disastrous, as we've seen only this week with the Ukrainian city of Kherson and the surrounding area devoured by the waters of the Dnipro River, released by the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam. We'll start as usual by lighting our chalice flame as a symbol of our free religious faith, and Caroline will light our chalice now. And if you're at home and have a candle, you may like to light it with her.
We light this chalice, may its light and warmth radiate from it, to cheer and strengthen this community, in and out into the wider world beyond our doors, as ripples radiating from a pebble cast into a calm sea, reaching from shore to distant shore.
Thank you, Caroline. So our chalice is lit, and Kathy is going to read a couple of prayers.
Careful here. So two prayers, because you're saying about the poetry service, and one in the Celtic tradition, which Chris and I read from, morning and evening, by John Philip Newell, and he always does, before the prayers, does a prayer of awareness. So this is a prayer of awareness, and that would be followed by a prayer by Cliff Reed. The morning. Blessed are those who weep, for their tears will be wiped away. And the prayer of awareness. Light, golden light, fresh from the source. Colours, creation colours calling our senses. Life, life in its oneness, life in its manifold oneness, all from you. You are the sun from whom the morning shines. You are the river in whom each life form flows, each face, each race, each cell within our ever-living soul. This new day we greet you. Be still and aware. And a prayer from Cliff Reed. We hold in our thoughts and our prayers all our church community and our families, friends and neighbours, in the wider community who are in need of solace. We hold in our thoughts today especially the many thousands of people and the damage to the environment and its wildlife affected by too much water, as in the destruction of the dam in Ukraine, or too little water, as in the Canadian forest wildfires. For the sick, may there be healing and strength. For the distressed, may there be peace and tranquility of spirit. For the embittered, may there be reconciliation and a new beginning. For the despairing, may there be faith and rekindled joy. For the fearful, may there be courage and unquenchable hope. For the poor and oppressed, may there be better times ahead. With our trembling hands we reach out to all our neighbours, those nearby or afar, who are suffering in any way. May love and life flow throughout from us to restore, to relieve, and to recreate. May it be so. Thanks be.
We've divided, as you will see if you have an order of service by you, we've divided our poems into 4 sets, and each person who's reading a poem may give a very short explanation of why they've chosen it. I'm going to read Water by Philip Larkin. I've chosen it because I think water is such an important, essential aspect of all life. And also I remember many years ago when a group of people used to meet every quarter and go for what they called an earth walk to celebrate creation. That was with the Colebrookes and with Chris and Kathy and other people. And one time we went onto the moor and the theme was water. And I think this poem may have been read then, but it's stuck with me ever since. It's a short poem called Water by Philip Larkin. If I were called in to construct a religion, I should make use of water. Going to church would entail affording to dry different clothes. My litany would employ images of sousing, a furious, devout drench. And I should raise in the east a glass of water where any angled light would congregate endlessly. And now Viv is going to read us a poem about a river, which of course feeds into the sea.
It's a poem by Kipling, and very much of that time. I found it very imaginative and liked the idea that there is some sort of communication possible between man-made bridge constructs and the actual sentient river. The story revolves around the 20 bridges of the River Thames, so hello to Anne, as it's London, and I hope you feel better soon. It's called The River's Tale, in brackets, prehistoric. 20 bridges from Tower to Kew wanted to know what the river knew, for they were young and the Thames was old, and this is the tale that the river told. I walk my beat before London town, 5 hours up and 7 down. Up I go till I end my run at Tide End Town, which is Teddington. Down I come with the mud in my hands and plaster it over the Maplin sands. But I'd have you know that these waters of mine were once a branch of the River Rhine, when hundreds of miles to the east I went, and England was joined to the continent. I remember the bat-winged lizard birds, the age of ice and the mammoth herds, and the giant tigers that stalked them down through Regent's Park into Camden Town. And I remember like yesterday the earliest Cockney who came my way, when he pushed through the forest that lined the Strand, with paint on his face and a club in his hand. He was deaf to feather and fin and fur. He trapped my beavers at Westminster. He netted my salmon, he hunted my deer. He killed my heron off Lambeth Pier. He fought his neighbour with axes and swords, flint or bronze at my upper fords, while down at Greenwich for slaves and tin, the tall Phoenician ships stole in. And North Sea warboats, painted and gay, flashed like dragonflies Erith way. And Norseman and Negro and Gaul and Greek drank with the Britons in Barking Creek. And life was gay and the world was new, and I was a mile across that queue. But the Roman came with a heavy hand, and bridged and roaded and ruled the land. And the Romans left and the Danes blew in, and that's where your history books begin.
It's time now for our first hymn, and all our hymns are in the Purple Book today, and this is hymn number 128, Our World is One World. The words will appear on the screen, but you may find it easier to read the words in the hymn book. Come to our second set of poems, and Christine is going to read the first one.
This is the poem Neither Out Far Nor In Deep by Robert Frost. The people along the sand all turn and look one way. They turn their back on the land, they look at the sea all day. As long as it takes to pass, the ship keeps raising its hull. The wetter ground like glass reflects a standing gull. The land may vary more, but wherever the truth may be, the water comes ashore, and the people look at the sea. They cannot look out far, they cannot look in deep, but when was there ever a bar to any watch they keep?
Our next poem will be read by Thelma. It's entitled Big Waves by Eleanor Farjon, and I think if you could, at the lectern, I know that you project well, Thelma, so...
There are big waves and little waves, green waves and blue, waves you can jump over, waves you dive through, waves that rise up like a great water wall, waves that swell softly and don't break at all, waves that can whisper, waves that can roar, and tiny waves that run at you, running on the shore.
Thank you, Thelma. And Janice is going to read a short poem. If you can remember to speak up. Thank you.
Very simple. There is a enemy by E.E. Cummings, the man who only used lowercase letters. And it's about Maggie and Millie and Molly and May. Now, Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day. And Maggie discovered a shell that sang so sweetly she couldn't remember her troubles. And Millie befriended a stranded star whose rays 5 languid fingers were. And Molly was chased by a horrible thing which raced sideways while blowing bubbles. And May came home with a smooth brown stone, as small as a worm and as large as a loaf. For whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea.
Thank you to our readers. And we come now to our second hymn, which is the hymn number 147 in our purple book. Spirit of earth, root, stone and tree, but it does mention water as well. To our third set of readings, and we're going to have Caroline start it with Sea Fever, and I think maybe if you come up here.
I chose this poem because it's a wonderful poem. I'm sure you probably all know it. Sea Fever by John Masefield. And it speaks to his longing for the sea, because he spent his young life, adult life, as a merchant seaman. And he loved it, obviously, but he left in the end to write poetry and became our poet laureate in 1930 until he died in 67. So he produced a huge body of work. A lot of it was about the sea. So, I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheel's kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trip's over.
Thank you, Caroline. Our next poem is, I believe it's Delphine, who's going to read Ithaca. If you read... Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody that's read so far. It's been a real voyage. It's been lovely. I'm going to bring myself a poem called Ithaca by a Greek poet, Kafafi, but I'm going to introduce it with a quote that I saw in the Quaker House. "Ships are safe in harbour, but that is not what ships are for." And it seems to me that the poem I'm about to introduce is a story of the sea giving the opportunity for those journeys which give opportunity for adventure, self-knowledge, and everything else experience that you meet along the way. The sea voyages are often a metaphor for life, and it seems that a sea voyage can often be seen as a way of looking at a life, an opportunity for experience, adventure, learning, and the destination. Often we don't know. How would we? And the definition is not necessarily the most important part of the journey in any case. Kafavi was a Greek poet. His parents were Greek businessmen. They brought him up in London when he was young, but the business went bad, and Dad and the family went back to Alexandria, where he lived as a government official for the rest of his life. Quite a sedentary occupation, but the Greeks always know about sailing and seas. He kept high company. He hung out with the M. Forster and Lawrence Durrell in Alexandria. Very highly regarded, but not very much known outside Greece until this particular poem was the one that was chosen to be read at the funeral of Jacqueline Onassis, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, and suddenly everybody knew it and heard it and took it to their hearts. I'm going to read from this book. It's the book my sister sent me when I went for a sailabout. I went to sea for about 5 years, and she sent me this book, something to read when I go, and she wrote on this poem, "Read this often." Ithaca. Good enough? Can you hear? Yeah. Okay. Ithaca. As you set out for Ithaca, and this is a piece of advice addressed to Odysseus, basically. Odysseus took 10 years to get back to his home where he came from, but it was a long journey. Ithaca. As you set out for Ithaca, hope the voyage is a long one, full of adventure, full of discovery. Lastrygonians and Cyclops, angry Poseidon, don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way, as long as you keep your thoughts raised high, as long as a rare excitement stirs your spirit and your body. Lastrygonians and Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul, unless your soul sets them up in front of you. Hope the voyage is a long one. May there be many a summer morning when with what pleasure, what joy you come into harbours seen for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl and coral, amber and ebony, sensual perfume of every kind, as many sensual perfumes as you can. And may you visit many Egyptian cities to gather stores of knowledge from their scholars. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so that you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvellous journey. Without her you would not have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you will have understood by then what these Ithacas mean.
Thank you, Delphine. So we've heard about a journey, and Janice is going to read us about preparing for a journey to the sea. Could you all hear Janice when she was at the lectern before?
This is preparing for a journey. We had Maggie and Millie. They were just going to be excited and play on the beach. But here's a girl, rather older, and she's thinking about preparations, but she's really excited about going to the sea. I'm going to the sea for the weekend. In a couple of days I'll be back. So I'll just take my little brown suit and a blouse and a beret and carry my map. But what if the house is a cold one? The house where I'm going to stay. No fires after April. No hot drinks at night. And the windows wide open all day. I'd better take two cartons and a long tartan scarf on my head and my chaste new pajamas in case they decide to bring me my breakfast in bed. And what about church on the Sunday? I could wear my ferryman suit, but if it were sunny, it would be a chance to wear my straw hat with the fruit. So I'll just take my silk dress to go with the straw and a silk scarf to go with the suit. I'll just take my jeans and that jumper in case we go out in the car, and my guernsey in case we go out in the boat. And do you know where my swimming things are? Do you think I should take that black velvet in case they book seats for a play? And is it so usual to take your own towel when you go somewhere to stay? I had thought of just taking slippers, but they feel disgustingly old. I'd better take best shoes and sandals and boots for the church and the heat and the cold. I daren't go without my umbrella in case I'm dressed up and it rains. I'm bound to need socks and my wellies for walking down long muddy lanes. I'd rather not take my old dressing gown. It's such a business to pack. But suppose they have breakfast before they get dressed. I'd have to have mine in my map. I'm going to the sea for the weekend. In a couple of days I'll be back. So I'll just take my little brown suit and a blouse, 2 khakis, my long tartan scarf, my chaste new pajamas, my straw hat with a fruit, my silk dress, my silk scarf, my jeans, my jumper, my guernsey, my swimming thing, my black velvet, my towel, my slippers. No one need see them. My sandals, my boots, my umbrella, my socks, my wellies, my dressing gown. No, not my dressing gown. Okay, my dressing gown. And a belt and carry my mat. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Now we're going to have a short, quiet time, and that will be followed by some reflective music. Our opening music was a piece by Debussy, sort of referring to the ocean. And the piece of music we will be hearing after our short silence is Reflet dans l'eau, Reflections on the Water, and also by Debussy. Hope you enjoyed that watery music. Delphine is going to read a short extract from one of the Psalms, because the Psalms also are wonderful poetry, and this is from Psalm 107.
It's so soothing. Really carries you out on the spirit of the sea. I'm going to read Psalm 107. I found the extract in a poetry book that we were using in the poetry group, but this is taken from my Bible. It's got the date 1960 in it. I was given it when I went to big school. It's the authorised version, so that's what I'm going to use today. Psalm 107 it's got two ideas. That God is good. That's quite radical in itself, feeling that life is basically good. And that when you have evidence of God's care, it's always nice to say thank you. And giving thanks is good. I've been to sea. Giving thanks, arriving on the land is good. And this paints that picture. They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord, and his wonders in the deep. For he commandeth, and raiseth the stormy wind, which lifteth up the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven, they go down again to the depths. Their soul is melted because of trouble. They reel to and fro, and stagger like a drunken man, and are at their wits' end. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then are they glad because they be quiet. So he bringeth them into their desired haven. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Let them exalt him also in the congregation of the people, and praise him in the assembly of the elders.
Thank you, Delphine. It's good to be reminded of words of wisdom from the good book. We're now ready to sing our third hymn, which is the hymn number 216 in the Purple Book, Wide Green World.
For
we come to our final and fourth set of poems. I think if the people would like to come up to the pulpit and read. Firstly, Christine is going to read us a poem called Plymouth. So come and tell us about Plymouth, Chris.
I feel a certain, I hope, innocent possessiveness about this because I was born in Plymouth and always been rather pleased that I was born so near to the sea. The poem is Plymouth by Ernest Radford. Oh, what know they of harbours who toss not on the sea? They tell of fairer havens, but none so fair there be as Plymouth town outstretching her quiet arms to me, her breast's broad welcome spreading from Newstone to Penlee. And with this home thought, darling, came crowding thoughts of thee. Oh, what know they of harbours who toss not on the sea?
I was born overlooking the sea in Cornwall in March, and I'm a Pisces. And the sea is very much part of who I am, having lived in, on, or near it all my life. My first job was in Plymouth, working for the Ministry of Technology. But at 22, I was made redundant when a change of government decided not to renew the contract, which is fairly normal. So I decided to head to the bright lights of London. There was no sea. Despite many advantages, I nevertheless headed back to the southwest after just over a year. This poem helps to explain how I felt at the time. It's called Exiled, and it's by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Searching my heart for its true sorrow, this is the thing I find to be, that I am weary of words and people, sick of the city, wanting the sea. Wanting the sticky, salty sweetness of the strong wind and shattered spray. Wanting the loud sound and soft sound of the big surf that breaks all day. Always before about my dooryard, marking the reach of the winter sea, rooted in sand and dragging driftwood, straggled the purple, wild sweet pea. Always I climbed the wave at morning, shook the sand from my shoes at night, that now am caught beneath great buildings, stricken with noise, confused with light. If I could hear the green piles groaning under the windy wooden piers, see once again the bobbing barrels and the black sticks that fence the weirs. If I could see the weedy mussels crusting the wrecked and rotting hulls, hear once again the hungry crying overhead of the wheeling gulls. Feel once again the shanty straining under the turning of the tide, fear once again the rising freshet, dread the bell of the fog outside. I should be happy. That was happy all day long on the coast of Maine. I have a need to hold and handle shells and anchors and boats again. I should be happy that I'm happy never at all since I came here. I am too long away from water. I have a need for water near.
This poem, Daydream by Tesimon, I'm not sure, I think it was on the Barbican. I think there's a bookshop called Odd and Interesting. And it was in the 80s when I moved to Plymouth after, different things happened. And so it was this time of exploring a new city, but also pondering upon, I suppose, the wars and hurts within all the human nations. And this poem, Tesimon, has always been one of my favourite, Daydream. One day people will touch and talk, perhaps easily, and loving be as natural as breathing and as warm as sunlight. And people will untie themselves as string is unknotted, unfold and yawn and stretch and spread their fingers, unfurl, uncurl like seaweed, return to the sea, and work will be simple and swift as a seagull flying, and play will be casual and quiet as a seagull settling, and the clocks will stop and no one will wonder or care or notice, and people will smile without reason, even in winter, even in the rain.
Thanks to our readers. A closing prayer, and then we will extinguish the chalice, but there will also be something after the chalice. We have a short video about World Oceans Day, and a short piece preceding that, which I will read. But our closing prayer firstly. And this is taken from writings by John O'Donoghue, and it's an extract from one of his pieces called In Praise of Water. Let us bless the grace of water. The imagination of the primeval ocean were the first forms of life stirred and emerged to dress the vacant earth with warm quilts of colour. Let us bless the humility of water, always willing to take the shape of whatever otherness holds it. The buoyancy of water, stronger than the deadening downward drag of gravity. The innocence of water, flowing forth without thought of what awaits it. The refreshment of water, dissolving the crystals of thirst. Water, voice of grief, cry of love, in the flowing tear. Water, vehicle and idiom of all the inner voyaging that keeps us alive. Blessed be water, our first mother.